Gather around, oh, my people. Seeing this story before getting married is the best thing that has ever happened to you. They said Ada married wealth. They said she was lucky. But nobody saw the tears she cried behind closed doors, the insults, the control, the silence. She entered that marriage with love, but escaping it nearly cost her everything. Are you sure you want to marry him? Ada's mother asked. Her voice was low as she sat on the wooden bench beside their half-finished house. You are not working, and he is very rich. Do you think he will respect us as his in-laws? Ada knelt beside her mother, holding her rough palms tightly. Mama, I love him. He loves me too. Her eyes shone with hope. He promised to help us financially. He even said he will complete this house and send Nneka to school. He also promised to open a shop for you and pay Papa's medical fees. Her mother sighed deeply and looked away at the red earth road that led out of the village. Ada, I am asking you these questions because rich people have pride. But Ada had already made up her mind. Chris came from the city with shiny cars, expensive perfumes, and a confidence that made villagers whisper. When he married Ada, the whole village celebrated. Drums echoed through the village, women danced, and people said Ada's destiny had finally changed. For the first month of the marriage, Ada truly believed heaven had found her address. Chris bought her beautiful dresses she had only seen on Instagram. New shoes arrived every week. Her hair was always neatly done, her neck heavy with jewelry, her phone brand new. He even bought her a car and hired a driver so my wife will not suffer. Money flowed into the village. Her parents received alerts regularly. Whenever her mother called, Chris would laugh and say, Mama, if you need anything, just tell me. You didn't give birth to your daughter for nothing. Ada felt proud. The same girls who once laughed at her torn slippers now greeted her with respect. She made new friends, rich women who spoke about vacations and luxury. Everywhere she went, people said, Ada has married well, oh. Thank God. At night, Chris was gentle. He held her close and told her, I will take care of you forever. You don't need to stress yourself working. I am enough. Ada believed him. Then the second month came. One afternoon, Ada gently asked for money to buy a few household things. Chris looked up from his phone. His face suddenly hard. So the money I gave you has finished, eh? He snapped. Ada froze. I am sorry, she said softly. He scoffed. Were you spending like this in your father's house? Her heart dropped. She apologized again, confused and shaken. That night she cried quietly, telling herself that he was just stressed. But the sharp words did not stop. Soon, every request came with insults. Can your parents afford this? Do you think money grows from trees? The man who once smiled at her now raised his voice easily. The gifts slowed. The calls to the village stopped. When her parents finally asked why, Chris replied coldly, So, because I married from a poor family, I will not rest, Abby? Ada felt shame born inside her, but she kept quiet. When she became pregnant, she hoped things would change. Instead, they grew worse. After childbirth, her mother came for Omugo, carrying plantain and crayfish, the best she could afford. Chris frowned the moment he saw her. Is this all she could bring? He muttered. The next day, he sent her mother away and brought his own mother from the city. Ada cried silently as the car carried her mother back to the village. By then, Ada had no money of her own. Every purchase was questioned. Chris had access to her phone. He knew her passwords. Her world grew smaller. One night, she whispered into the phone, trembling as she spoke to her mother. Mama, people think I am a rich woman. Some even think my marriage is sweet because I married a rich man. She ended the call and stared at the ceiling, her heart heavy. Outside their beautiful house, the light shone brightly. Inside Ada, something dark was beginning to grow. And this was only the beginning. The child changed everything but nothing. Ada thought motherhood would soften Chris, that holding his child would remind him of love. Instead, it gave him another chain to hold her down. Chris became colder, sharper, and more controlling. He stopped allowing Ada to step out without explaining where she was going. If she stayed too long at the gates greeting neighbors, he questioned her. If she smiled at the phone, he demanded to know who she was chatting with. Slowly, quietly, he took over her entire life. Ada soon realized something frightening. She had no access to her own phone. Every naira she spent was tracked. Chris insisted on seeing receipt. Sometimes he deducted the money from what he allowed her the next week. You don't work, he would remind her, so you must be accountable. She suggested learning a skill, maybe tailoring, maybe running a small business. Chris laughed. Why? So you can start feeling important, right? Then his voice hardened. I said you don't need to work. Ada swallowed her dreams and stayed silent. Meanwhile, Chris changed completely outside the house. He came home late, smelling of expensive perfumes that were not hers. His phone was always on silent. When she asked gently, he snapped. Don't start what you can't finish. The truth revealed itself slowly, through whispers, through screenshots mistakenly sent to the wrong contact, through sudden trips and unexplained spendings. Chris was generous, but not to his wife. He lavished money on other women, took them out, bought them gifts, treated them the way Ada once dreamed of being treated forever. At home, she lived like a visitor. When Ada confronted him one night, holding back tears, Chris laughed bitterly. So you want to control me now, right? He leaned closer. Remember where you came from. Those words crushed her spirit. Years passed like this. Ada became pregnant again and again. Each pregnancy tied her tighter to the marriage. Each child made living harder. Chris refused to let her work, refused to let her build anything of her own. He reminded her constantly that she had nowhere to go. You think your village people will feed you and these children, eh? That night, when the house was quiet, Ada lay awake thinking of her mother's warning, thinking of the girl she used to be, hopeful, confident, full of dreams. Now, people saw her as a rich woman, but she had never felt poorer. One afternoon, she stood in front of the mirror and barely recognized herself. The fine clothes were there, but her eyes were dull. Her smile no longer came easily. That was when the truth finally settled in her heart. This marriage was not love. It was a cage, beautiful on the outside, cruel inside. The day she decided to leave did not come with noise or drama. It came quietly. She packed a small bag. She looked at her sleeping children and cried until her chest ached. She knew she could not take them all with her. Not yet. With nothing but courage and pain, Ada returned to the village she once ran from. People whispered, didn't she marry a rich man? What went wrong? Ada said nothing. She tied her wrapper, wiped her tears, and set up a small food table by the roadside. From ashes, she began again. The first morning, Ada sat by the roadside to sell food. Shame followed her like a shadow. She woke before dawn, swept the front of her mother's compound, and cooked with borrowed ingredients. The pot was old. The firewood smoked heavily. Her hands shook as she arranged the food in small bowls. This was not the life she imagined on her wedding day. People passed and stared. Some pretended not to recognize her. Others whispered openly, isn't that Ada? The one that married the big man from the city. So she has come back like this. Every word cut deep, but hunger was louder than pride. She sold out that day. It wasn't much money, but it was hers. The next day she returned, then the next. Slowly, customers began to look for her. They liked her food, they liked her calm nature. Some even stayed to watch. At night, Ada cried quietly, missing her children, blaming herself, remembering promises that turned to dust. But each morning she stood up again. Chris called. At first, he was angry. You think you can embarrass me like this, Abby? Then threatening, you won't survive without me. Enjoy your village life. Ada stopped explaining herself. She had learned something important. Some people don't listen because they want to understand. Months passed. Her small food table grew into a shade. From one pot she moved to three. From three to five. She saved carefully. She learned how to buy ingredients in bulk. She learned business, not from books, but from experience. For the first time in years, Ada slept peacefully. When she smiled now, it reached her eyes. Her children visited her 3 days in a week. Those days were the best days of her life. She cooked their favorite meals, listened to their laughter, and told them stories under the moonlight. She didn't have full custody, but she had hope. People stopped whispering. Instead, they said, Ada is a strong woman. Oh. Ada is hardworking. Ada didn't die. Years later, Ada opened a proper restaurant with chairs and tables, a signboard with her name boldly written. She employed people. She paid her parents' bills. She sent Nneka to school. She completed the house Chris once promised to finish. One evening, a familiar car stopped in front of her restaurant. Chris stepped out. He looked different, older, quieter, uncertain. He asked to see her. Ada listened as he apologized. He spoke of mistakes, of regrets, of wanting his family back. Ada looked at him calmly. She remembered the insults, the control, the silence she swallowed, the tears she cried alone, and she shook her head. I have found myself, she said softly. I will not lose her again. Chris left. Ada watched him go, not with hatred, but with clarity. She turned her back to her restaurant, to her life, to the woman she had rebuilt with her own hands. And that night, Ada understood the lesson her mother tried to teach her long ago. Love is beautiful, but independence is power. Time passed, and Ada's name began to carry weight in the village. She was no longer the girl that married a rich man. She became Madame Ada, the woman who rose from falling. Her restaurant became a meeting point. Travelers stopped there to eat. Villagers held small celebrations there. Young women came quietly to ask questions, watching how Ada spoke with confidence, how she counted her own money without fear, how peace sat gently on her face. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky orange, Ada's mother sat beside her outside the restaurant. My daughter, she said softly, life has taught you with a strong hand. Ada nodded. Yes, Mama, but it also gave me eyes. Chris didn't disappear completely. He tried again months later, sending messages, using the children as excuse, reminding her of the past. But Ada had grown. She set boundaries. She spoke firmly but respectfully. She no longer feared his voice or his money. The power he once held over her had melted away. She focused on her children, teaching them dignity, kindness, and the value of effort. She made sure they understood that wealth without respect is poverty of the soul. Some nights, Ada still remember the pain. Healing did not erase memory, but memory no longer controlled her. One day, during a women's gathering in the village, Ada was asked to speak. She stood before them, her voice calm but steady. I was once married to wealth, she said, but I was poor inside that marriage. I had fine clothes, but no freedom. I had a big house, but no peace. The women listened closely. She continued, before marriage, have something you are doing. Not because marriage is bad, but because life is unpredictable. Dependence can silence you. Independence gives you a voice. The women nodded. Some wiped their eyes. That night, as Ada closed her restaurant and counted the day's earnings, she smiled. Not because life was perfect, but because it was hers. Her mother's voice echoed in her heart. Rich people have pride. But Ada had learned something deeper. True wealth is not who you marry. It is who you become when life tests you. And so the village remembered Ada. Not as a woman who married riches and lost herself, but as a woman who lost everything and found her strength. Moral of the story: as a lady, have something you are doing before marriage. Love is important, but self resilience can save your future. The end. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comment section.